Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with R-CALF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, about 2 decades ago, the concentration in the cattle market was about the same as it is today, with 4 firms then controlling 81% of the fed cattle market. Back then, we had almost 34 million mother cows in the U.S. beef cattle herd. And also back then, about 14% of all the beef available in the United States was derived either from imported beef or from imported cattle converted to beef in our U.S. slaughtering plants. Now today, the 4 largest firms control 85% of the fed cattle market. The size of the U.S. mother cow herd has fallen by about 3 million head, and imports of beef and imported cattle converted to beef account for about 20% of all the beef available in the United States. So today, after 2 decades of progress, our industry is a bit more concentrated. We have fewer cows, but we have more imports. So what? Well, 2 decades ago, American citizens consumed just over 24 billion pounds of beef. Today, they're consuming over 27 billion pounds of beef. That means America is now consuming the beef from about 4 to 5 million more cattle than they did just 2 decades ago. But today we have fewer cows, 3 million fewer mother cows, and more imports. So has anyone stopped to wonder why the largest beef producing country in the world, which is the United States, continually underproduces for the largest beef consuming country in the world, which also happens to be the United States? Or have you asked yourself the question, why isn't the domestic cattle industry taking advantage of America's increased beef consumption by growing its U.S. cattle industry? And the answer is because that's not the kind of barn you built. Instead, you built a barn that's serving the exact purpose it was supposed to serve. Think of it this way. You build a barn with 4 walls and a roof, and it will only hold so many cattle. Doesn't matter if an opportunity comes along to increase the size of your cattle herd, the barn will only hold the same number of cattle, period. Now think of your cattle industry as a barn, but instead of a framework of walls and a roof to constrain the cattle within it, you have laws, regulations, and policies that serve the purpose of a framework that effectively constrains the entire U.S. cattle industry within it. Now, say one wall is a policy that says you can place no limits on the number of imported cattle or imported beef. And another wall is a policy that says you cannot stop the packers from shrinking your industry's price discovery market. And say another wall is a policy that says our 100-year-old antitrust laws and the Packers and Stockyards Act cannot be updated or enforced. And say yet another wall is a policy that says you cannot distinguish your American beef from foreign beef with a country of origin label. And finally, say your roof is a law that says you must pay into a checkoff program that does not allow you to promote American beef, but instead says you must fund the promotion for foreign beef. With that framework, the barn you built effectively constrains you and your industry. It doesn't matter what happens outside. You cannot put any more cattle in the barn and your industry can't grow. But you do have options, but only if you will recognize them and begin supporting them. You can rebuild your barn so your industry has room to grow. You can begin competing with the growing imports of cattle and beef, but only after you push out the wall that doesn't allow limits on imports. And only after you push out the wall that prevents country of origin labels on your beef. You can begin building demand for American beef produced from your American cattle, but only after you remove the roof that forces you to pay for promotion of foreign beef. And you can force more competition in your cattle markets, but only after you push out the wall that prevents you from protecting your price discovery market. And you can stop anti-competitive practices, but only if you push out the wall that prevents the updating and enforcement of our U.S. antitrust laws and the Packers and Stockyards Act. You see, just like the framework of your barn, the framework that constrains your industry is man-made, meaning you can change it if you have the will and courage to do so, and if you're willing to work. And I hope you are willing and able to work to rebuild the broken framework of your U.S. cattle industry. Please join with us at R-CALF USA, because with your support, we will succeed. To learn more about what R-CALF USA is doing for independent U.S. cattle producers and for all of rural America, go to www.r-calfusa.com, and there you can join with us to help preserve opportunities for the independent American cattle producer in the United States of America. With that, thank you and goodbye.